অসংখ্য ধন্যবাদ প্রফেসর মোহাম্মদ শহীদুল ইসলাম নুরি। Without wasting time, I would now request Dr. Mohammad Sajjad Alam Rizvi, Assistant Professor, Department of History, Presidency University, Kolkata, to speak on Furfura Sharif, exploring sacred geographies and religious and spiritual networks. So Dr. Sajjad Alam Rizvi, please. So please complete within 20 to 25 minutes so that I can come up.
Thank you. Good morning and assalamu alaikum to all. First, I must thank Professor Amit Dey, Mr. Abdul Mannan and the members of the organizing committee for giving me this opportunity to be introduced to the Silsila Furfura Sharif. I will explore the history of the Sufi masters who settled at Furfura Sharif by tracing their spiritual and religious genealogies during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. I will focus on the recollection accorded to the different individuals and will look at the close relation of memory and communication. The paper will deal with the processes that led to the formation of a sacred geography at the shrine of Shah Abu Bakar Siddique and his 5 sons, popularly known as the Panch Huzur Qibla, in the larger context of religious and spiritual centers both in South Asia and abroad. Inspired by the works of Tony Hubers, Samina Qureshi, Niall Green, and David Damrell, who have focused or brought new perspective to the study of sacred geographies. These studies make a significant contributions in forming the methodological basis to understand the role played by the dargahs and blessed men in the formation of sacred geographies. They explore the role of itinerant Sufi saints and blessed men in the emergence of Muslim communities in early modern South Asia. These authors are of the view that the Sufi shrines and dargahs serve as gate through time, where the past is recounted in narrative and rendered visible in architecture and rituals, and therefore have been crucial to the making of Muslim space on Indian soil. The dargahs have helped in defining the Muslim identity by linking the community to territory and territory to hagiographical text of memory. The text, however, it restricts itself in dealing with the role of Sufis as social actors both during their lifetime and after their death in the recreation of Muslim sacred geographies in India. David Dalrymple has also cautioned us while focusing on the notions of sacred geography. He says that the idea of sacred geography occupies an ambiguous and increasingly important positions in contemporary Muslim religious and political thought. Any project to identify, categorize, or plot this religious space that is the space where Muslims rituals are performed must engage with the notions of Islamic religious authority that authenticate place and rituals as well as the extraordinary diversity of contemporary Muslim place-related practices. Any study of Muslim sacred space must simultaneously map current understandings of religious authority, ritual, and cultural practices within Islam. The conflict, which is characterized by many as a crisis of authority within Islam, with debate arising only as to the acuity of crisis. In this broad held assumptions, authenticity within modern Islam is being contested by rival Muslim authorities who are described with a prolific or imprecise variety of terms as moderate, extremist, activist, conservative, reformist, Puritan, jihadi, fundamentalist, new fundamentalist, quietist, moderate, Islamist, and others. The crisis over religious authorities or leadership within the Ummah, seen as unprecedented in scale and intensity, is thought by some to signal a striking and historic moment of transformations for Muslim communities worldwide. This is not an exclusively modern question, as Muslim communities worldwide and across time. I just leave out some portions to keep it within time. Across time have consistently struggled to define and redefine local authorities, practices, and space within distinctive regional contexts and circumstances. What makes the contemporary situation so striking is a shrill and explicit globalization project among some Muslims that is intended to replace long-established local traditions, including regional understanding of ritual and space related with a monolithic end that is authoritarian visions of Islamic religious life. It is regional sacred space, more particularly the extensive networks of local shrines, tombs, and graves that comprise local religious terrains throughout much of the Muslim world, that has emerged as one of the crucial battlegrounds, literally and figuratively, in the contest over modern religious authority within Islam. These shrines are typically connected with Islamic mysticism known as Sufism and are important centers of what some have described as mediatory or miracle-based folk or popular Islam. Such regional sacred spaces are, as has been noted in a substantial body of scholarly literature, frequent locations of significant Muslims, both Sunni and Shia, and Hindu interactions. In fact, many historical models intend to explain Hindu conversion to Islam and the process of Islamizations in South Asia assign these sites of religious encounter critical roles in the process. At another level, these and similar shrines have been described as local expressions of mazar culture, a coded expression that signifies that mazars and their attendant festivals and their surrounding neighborhoods are scenes of un-Islamic behaviors and moral degeneracy. However, the grave is the preeminent sacred space for South Asian Muslims for a long time. Muslims have created, visited, guarded, and shared a river landscape that is composed of hundreds of grave-centered sacred practices. Grave, of course, are not the only category of religious space for Muslims in South Asia. Just as everywhere else, South Asian Muslims routinely created and create necessary ritual spaces such as mosques, cemeteries, imam baras, and other spaces as required for religious purposes. Now I leave out a little bit about graves and grave cultures and many practices which had been so far discussed in the papers that it dealt with the reformist traditions, the so-called. The central attractions for these shrines for the Muslim and non-Muslim alike are the pious dead who reside in the tombs. They are the invisible friends, the saintly men and women whose unique qualities have privileged them with a special closeness to God. Shrine visitations or ziyarat can be understood as an audience with these elite dead or dynamic interactions between the visitors and the visited inhabitants of the grave. Shrines themselves are frequently called darbars, terms whose meaning include royal court, with a striking result that at many tombs the protocol of proper behavior before the illustrious dead follows the same routine courtly standards that dictated conduct before Muslim and sometimes Hindu rulers. And then I have also focused on the concept of barakah, which also was discussed yesterday, so that is why I leave it out. And I come to the context in which Shah Abu Bakar Siddique had to face many challenges while grounding his program within a Sufi milieu. Despite their ubiquitous presence in South Asian Muslim shrines, tombs, graves, and their attendant rituals have sparked controversy and criticism almost from their earliest appearance in the region. This criticism and defenses of shrines' life reflect a tremendous variety of contexts, circumstances, and perspective, and defy any easy generalization. Early shrine-minded scholars, for instance, mounted many early critiques of shrine activities, but other critiques came from within some of the Sufi order themselves. 15th and 16th century mystics such as the Chishti Sheikh Abdul Quddus Gangohi and the Naqshbandi Sufi master Sheikh Ahmad Sirhindi both voice stern objections to particular mazar-related practices, but in the end turned to legal arguments to vigorously defend most of the shrine-related rituals. The scholars mystic connected with the phenomena of Sharia-minded Sufism in the Mughal era defended the permissibility of certain Sufi practices even as though they sought to discourage or prohibit others. Some of the leading intellectual figures and religious authorities of the late 18th and early 19th century belong to the Naqshbandi order, among others, and their attitudes towards shrine practices reflected the order's sober yet enthusiastic appreciations of graves' rites. The celebrated reform-minded scholars and mystic Shah Waliullah Dehlavi and his son Abdul Aziz Dehlavi maintained a reconciliatory positions that secured the legal positions of ziyarat and yet censured many practices, ceremonies associated with the annual urs. At the same time, the two major militant social movements of the first half of the 19th century, the Faraidiya and in Bengal and the Mujahideen movement of Sayyid Ahmad Shaheed, both acted vigorously against local Sufi shrines and grave on occasions as part of their wider programs of reform. These competing visions of reform and nuanced debate over Muslim devotional life involving shrines and pir remained leading themes in the 19th century South Asian intellectual life and contributed in real ways to the general climate of reform and dissent just before and after the Indian Mutiny. This was the context when Shah Abu Bakr Siddique or Furfura had to ground or situate his reformist agenda. I'm not going to give you the biographical detail, just a little snapshots from different portions of the papers. So following Arthur Bueller's categorizations of the patterns of religious authority, which he says the Sufi masters derives his religious authority from different sources. First and foremost is Islamic education, then spiritual wayfaring, that is suluk or jazb. The third one is charisma or the power of the Sufi masters to perform miracles. And the fourth one was the prophetic exemplars or embodying the teachings and practices or the models of Prophet Muhammad. While reading the biographies written by Shah Abu Bakr Siddique, we should also keep in mind that biographies were not only commemorative but communicative as well. And this has been discussed yesterday by Professor Tony K. Stewart, and our knowledge has been enriched. So just keeping that in mind, so Shah Abu Bakr Siddique's the Furfura Sharif or the sacredness of Furfura Sharifs has a prehistory and history. According to the Tazkira Ulama Bengal, which records the prehistory of the Furfura Sharif, is one Shah Anwar Ali Balkhi, along with his friend or colleague Karamuddin, fought against an Hindu Raja and they were martyred. And this Shaheed or the Ghazi, which was yesterday discussed in greater details, is one of the elements that accorded in the prehistory of Furfura sacredness to this dargah. But along that one, the presence of the mosque and the graves of Anwar Ali Shah Balkhi and Karamuddin, as well as the two stones bearing the footprints of the martyred. All these sacred objects, architecture, as well as the sacred bodies provide sacrality to the prehistory of Furfura. But while coming to Shah Abu Bakr Siddique, we have different sources of the sacredness of the Sufi dargah. First and foremost, the biological genealogy, which comes from Baghdad, with Shah Mansur, one of the forefathers of the Silsila Mashaykhs, or it is projected that the piety or sacredness travel along with the person of Shah Mansur Baghdadi to Furfura. But later on, we find in the life works of Sheikh Abu Bakr Siddique, that all those sources of spiritual authority were appropriated at times. And for that one, Shah Abu Bakr Siddique first and foremost had acquired mastery in the field of Islamic educations at different places, lastly came to Kolkata. But Islamic education was one of the sources, and for that he needed another source, and that was the spiritual wayfaring, which he performed under the guidance of his Sufi master, Shah Fateh Ali Owaisi, who was the son of Shah Waris Ali of Chittagong and a Khalifa of Sheikh Nur Muhammad, who was a disciple of Sayyid Ahmad Shaheed. So their spiritual wayfaring through a spiritual genealogy going through Sheikh Sayyid Ahmad Shaheed, Shah Abdul Aziz, Shah Waliullah, up to the Naqshbandi Mujaddidi reformist Sheikh Ahmad Sirhandi. The third one is the Karishma and the Karamat. And I must confess that I have not yet studied the Karamat part of Sheikh Abu Bakr Siddique, and that is why I cannot deal more with this one. Yesterday there was one narration by Professor Sugata Bose, that a person, a child who has lost his speaking power began to speak. But this Karishma, spiritual wayfaring, and biological genealogy, along with educations, are some of the sources that provided sacrality to a space which is known as Furfura Sharif. Just to sum up, and I have left a lot. Yes. So thus to the conclusions, Furfura Sharifs offers serious challenges for scholars studying religion, popular culture, or under various categories. And I'm reminded here about the scholarly debate among scholars like Asim Roy, Professor Tony K. Stewart, Imtiaz Ahmad, Professor Francis Robinson, Shail Mayarams, and discussing the difficulties in using analytical categories to study Islam or Sufism in the South Asian context, whether it is syncretism, liminality, hybridity, or something beyond. Furfura Sharif, on the one hand, claims to continue the legacy of Sayyid Ahmad Shaheed, but there are certain gaps within that legacy that needs to be filled up. That is, Sayyid Ahmad Shaheed or his reformist programs did not permit this shrine-related practices. And here at Furfura, we do see that shrine-related practices are performed. Another one is Shah Fateh Muhammad Owaisi. He, in his poem, which is the Diwan-e Owaisi, has composed certain poems in the praise of Prophet Muhammad, which do not fall in lines of the beliefs or ideologies that were propagated by Shah Muhammad Ismail, one of the ideologue of the Tariqa-e Muhammadiyah. I just recite two Persian poems just to give you a flavor. Owaisiya az dino ima I kadar danem wa bas, dine ma ishke Muhammad hubbe-u imane ma. O Owais, from religion and belief, I know this much only, that our deen is the ishq of Muhammad and our iman is hub or muhabbat of Muhammad. Nadaram ghair tu yavar, nadaram ghair tu dilbar, tui kibla, tui marja, tui firyad rasre mara. I have no friend, I have no beloved. You are my qibla, you are my refuge, and you are my helper. So these kinds of invocations does not fall with the rigid categories of reformist Islams, which denounce any istighasa or tawassul, that is mediations in this interactions between the human being and the divine. So themes like this come up by studying. This is my first study of Furfura Sharifs. So I had these kinds of challenges or problems. So while using or appropriating certain scholarly analytical categories to categorize this Khanka within the existing studies of Sufism or Islam in the South Asian context. Just to give a brief summary in Urdu, because I am very weak in Bengali, so it is very difficult for me to speak. I can read, but जो मैंने पेपर यहाँ पढ़ा इसमें यह था कि फुरफुरा शरीफ का जो तकद्दुस है, जिसे हम शरीफ कहते हैं, उसकी शराफत या एक मुतबर्रक जो जगह बनी है, उसको हम किस तरह से पढ़ सकते हैं हिस्टोरिकली, और जो प्रोफेसर हजरात और अहले इल्म हजरात ने जिस तरह की इस्तिलाहात या वर्ड यूज़ किए हैं इस्लाम सूफीज़म को साउथ एशिया के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में पढ़ने के लिए। दरअसल जो दरगाहें हैं वहाँ दो चीज़ें बहुत अहम होती हैं। एक तो है तवस्सुल और इस्तिगासा और इस्तिआनत का तसव्वुर, और दूसरा है बरकत का तसव्वुर। इन दो तसव्वुरों को जो स्कॉलर्स ने पढ़ा है उन्होंने ये कहा है कि वो किसी भी स्पेस या जगह को एक मजहबी शराफत या तकद्दुस फराहम करती हैं। इस तरह से जब इससे आगे जब हम बढ़े तो हमने हल्का सा सिर्फ इशारा आपके सामने पेश किया फुरफुरा शरीफ की दरगाह और शेख अबू बकर सिद्दीकी के हवाले से, कि वहाँ जो तकद्दुस आया है उसके लिए उस स्कॉलर कहते हैं कि एक तो इल्म दीन है, दूसरा रूहानी सुलूक जिसे कहते हैं, तीसरा करिश्मा व करामात, और चौथा रसूल करीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के उसवे हसना की पैरवी। इन सब को फॉलो करते हुए फुरफुरा शरीफ के शेख अबू बकर सिद्दीक ने जो तहरीक शुरू की है उसकी बदौलत फुरफुरा शरीफ को तकद्दुस मिला। इसी के साथ साथ जो चीज़ मैंने अंग्रेजी में नहीं कही थी वो ये था कि फुरफुरा शरीफ को एक मरकज़ी हैसियत देने में उसकी समाजी और तालीमी खिदमात भी हैं, और इसको मैंने इसलिए छोड़ दिया कि इस पर कल से ही बहस हो रही है कि फुरफुरा शरीफ के सूफिया किराम ने जो तालीमी और इल्मी खिदमात अंजाम दी हैं उसने उसको फुरफुरा शरीफ को एक अलग पहचान अता की है। और यहीं देयर इज़ ऑल्सो चैलेंजेस फॉर स्कॉलर्स वर्किंग इन द फील्ड ऑफ हिस्ट्री ऑफ सूफिज्म दैट फुरफुरा शरीफ ऑल्सो offers opportunities for investigation and studies to study the interaction or interface between modernity and traditions, because here Furfura Sharif is projected as modern but rooted in the Sufi traditional methods and practices. So these are the challenges that we need to discuss in our future study of Sufism or Islam in the South Asian context. Thank you very much for your patience.